Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee. I talk about books on this channel, mainly books about magic, and welcome to the first episode of Spin My Shelves. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of a video that this type of video has been going around all year, whether it is Becca's Shelve It or Scrap It, or any version of this that I have seen across many different channels, where we're trying to decide if we are going to keep a book, if we're going to read it, if we're going to DNF it, all from our TBR shelf. So I have a pretty big physical TBR, not as big as some, but it's pretty big to me. It's around 70 books, and I would continuously like to reduce that. So I have split a spinner wheel up into all the different years that I have purchased these books. I think the earliest is 2019, and then there is also a unknown shelf or unknown category where I don't know exactly when I purchased them. We are going to spin the spinner wheel to give me a year, and then I'm going to tell you like which book I pick out of that year, basically. And this is going to give me a little bit of freedom of choice and letting me mood read while also marking my way through these different years and different books. My priority, of course, is the ones that are older, the ones that I have purchased the longest ago, because I am most likely to DNF those, or most likely to, continuously push those off because I have pushed them off for so long. So those are my priority. This is also going to force me into some reads, depending on how many books are on that are left from that year of purchase, because some of these have only one or two. But we are going to do my first spin and jump into the first book that I have chosen for this project. So as you can see, my first spin was for 2023. There were a total of 9 possibilities for this, but I'm going to keep the rest a secret so that I can show you them in other episodes. I chose this, The Mythic Dream, because it was able to fill in our fantasy square for me. It was on Hoopla, so there was no wait for the audiobook, and there were so many authors in this collection that I wanted to try that I haven't read from before, so that's why I chose this one and went with it for my first pick.
Hello everyone, so I am 4 stories into The Mythic Dream, and I've tabbed each one of the stories. So there's a lot in here, but my audiobook app tells me that I'm 25% of the way through. So I thought I'd stop and kind of give you guys an update on the 4 stories that I have read for this. The first was by Shauna Maguire, and I'm a big Shauna Maguire fan, so I enjoyed that. It was also a carnival-based story, which I just have been reading her Encrypted series, and the last couple of books that I have read have kind of had some carnival basis, so it felt like I was still in the world. It was a very nice way to start this off. It was also a Hades and Persephone retelling, which I really enjoyed, so loved that story. The second story was by Anne Lackey, and that was called Justified, and I was honestly very confused by that story. It was based on Egyptian mythology, according to the information in this book, but I wasn't familiar with the myth, and then we were set in the future, I think. I don't know. I didn't understand that one. Next up was T. Kingfisher, which again, I'm a big T. Kingfisher fan, and I really enjoyed that story. That was based on Hercules, and it was really, really interesting. Just some of the way the authors are twisting the myths and making them sort of modern or just in a different setting has been really interesting. And then the fourth story was by Rebecca Roanhorse, and that one was based on Deer Hunter and White Corn Maiden, which I don't know that story. I don't know of that folklore, but it was a very interesting futuristic take on memory and technology and trying to hold on to someone's who has passed on. It was just very, very interesting. So I've liked 3 of the 4 stories that are in here, that I've read so far. We have a bunch more to go, but I'm really glad that this challenge has picked this book for me. So I am taking my time and getting through this. Might have to like reborrow the audio at some point because I'm just kind of reading this in between things as I have time, since it's short stories and they're not really interconnected. But I do really appreciate about this book that after each story, the author has a like little paragraph that explains what they were doing, why they were interested in this story, or something along those lines. So very, very fun. I'm enjoying this a lot, and I'm already, if I read one more story, I will be done with the SFF challenge for this, for this year, to read 5 short stories. But I'm gonna read the whole thing, so I guess I'll also hit hard mode for this.
Hello. So I have read another 4 stories in this book, and I'm really enjoying overall the take on these myths. So this book is basically, each author is taking on a myth that they would like to recreate in usually a futuristic setting or futuristic style of some kind. So it's very interesting, and I understand some more than I do others, just depending on how well I know the myth, how well the author kind of settles us into a short story and things like that. So I read 4 stories, I think 4. So I read a story by Rebecca Roanhorse, G.Y. Yang, Arcady Martin, Sarah Gailey, Carlos Hernandez, and Stephen Graham Jones. So 5, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I read a lot more than I thought. When I meant to update you after 4, because that's what I did the first time. But anyway, I'm about halfway through the stories at this point, and I'm really enjoying the overall like tone of how authors are taking on this challenge. It's very interesting. My favorites in this section were Wild to Covet by Sarah Gailey, which was a reimagining of Thetis, I think, and she was the mother of Achilles, I think is what the author's note said, and I wasn't familiar with that myth, but I really liked that story. It was very interesting. And then I also liked He Fell Howling by Stephen Graham Jones, which was a Lycanian retelling or like reimagining, which was very interesting. And some of these are very futuristic while others just feel like fantastical, so I thought it was supposed to be like future stories, but it's kind of a mix, and that's very interesting to read. So those 2 were my favorite in this section. There haven't been any so far that I like give up on or anything like that, but there have been several that I'm confused by. But that's kind of the nature of short story collections. Sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't, just depending on the author's style, what they want to focus on, things like that. So I'm about halfway through the book, and I think what I'm going to do at this point is spin the spinner wheel to see if I can get another book to add to this, since this is taking me a while, since each one of these stories is so different. It's by a different author, it's a different myth. I'm taking breaks in between, like most of the time I read a story a day or maybe like 2, so it's taking me a while to get through this. So I think I'm going to add another book to this to kind of read at the same time, and we'll hopefully get through 2 books. My next spin didn't go quite to plan because I really want to prioritize the older books on my shelves, but I also want to read what I currently have on my TBR as well, because these are the ones I'm most excited for right now. So there were 22 possibilities for 2025, and I decided to choose Great Big Beautiful Life because my audiobook hold was very close to becoming available, and I really wanted to read this book, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity to do so. And this was not quite as calculated as the Mythic Dream was. This one I just picked and I wanted to read it. Hello everyone, so I have decided that my 2025 book will be, I hit myself in the face with it, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I picked up the Waterstones edition earlier this year. It has pretty sprayed edges. It's a pretty book. I am really excited for this, and I'm just thrilled. It's one story to tell, 2 writers trying to tell it, and an ending to beat them all. And I've been meaning to read this all year and I haven't picked it up. So here's the problem. The only problem, really, is that this audiobook is narrated by the same person who narrates the Atmosphere
all the Taylor Jenkins Reid books. I'm gonna sit down. So I fear that, so last year when I was reading all my Emily Henry books like pretty close together, I couldn't listen to the audiobook because the narrator was the same for all the books and they were running together, and I just couldn't like separate them in my mind. I was having trouble. Everyone was January to me. So I ended up reading Funny Story and Book Lovers just with my eyeballs, which is totally fine. But I thought maybe that this would be a audiobook listen because it has been about a year since I've read an Emily Henry book, and then I remembered that the audiobook narrator for these books and Taylor Jenkins Reid books are the same narrator. So I'm not sure how this is going to go because I just finished Why can't I speak? I just finished Atmosphere and I loved it so much that I'm afraid I won't be able to separate them. But we're going to try. We're going to try to get it from my library and see if I like the audiobook and if I can like get Joan and Vanessa out of my brain. But no promises, so this might be a physical read. But I wanted to read it. I wanted to read a contemporary alongside all the fantasy and mythology that I'm currently reading for other projects. So that's my update. This is also probably the last time you're going to see my hair this long because I'm planning on cutting it tomorrow and I'm not going to finish this vlog before it gets cut. So it's going to be much, much shorter the next time you see me. Hello everyone. So this is the point in all of these vlogs where I'm having to introduce you to me again where I have cut my hair. So I don't know when these vlogs are coming out and I don't know at what point I will put them out. So you'll probably have already seen my hair shorter, but it's just a funny thing to kind of realize in all of these vlogs that I have to tell you that I did that. Anyway, I have finished The Mythic Dream by Dominic Parisian and Nevaeh Wolf. Nevaeh Wolf. They were the editors on this project, and this was such an interesting collection of stories. I would really recommend it. Definitely check your trigger warnings for this series, this story collection, because the authors in this collection are bringing myths and legends and stories from various cultures into the modern day or the futuristic setting. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in myth that is alluded to or mentioned in very light context that when you put it into a story is going to be has a lot more detail and a lot more distressing parts to it. I'm thinking of a couple of the stories specifically, but overall, these deal with these myths that are, there's murder, there's some assault, so just some things to check your trigger warnings for. But also, this was so good. This is probably one of my favorite short story collections I've ever read. Not that I've read a ton, but I've read a few, and I would give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked a lot of the stories in here. I did skip one because I could not get a grasp on what the story was supposed to be, and sometimes that was my only really critique with this, was that if I wasn't familiar with the myth or the author's writing style, or both in some cases, it was difficult to always kind of identify the thread of the story because they're retelling these myths in a futuristic or fantasy setting, and then so there's not some of them would not have a ton of details, we kind of just jump into the story and the story is not very long. So that was my only critique, really, that occasionally there were stories that I felt like I was just sort of trying to follow what was going on, but I didn't really know what was going on. So, but just a couple. Overall, I think my favorite was Wild to Covet by Sarah Gailey. And then I also really liked Phantoms of the Midway by Shauna McGuire, but I both love Shauna McGuire and Hades and Persephone, and that's what both, they were combined in that story, so, they couldn't really go wrong. And then I also really loved Fisherbird by T. Kingfisher, and I also liked Buried Deep by Naomi Novik, and that one was a Ariadne and the Minotaur retelling. So that one was more historical. That one was more traditionally set, and it was just like a deeper explanation of the myth, which was very interesting. But overall, so many good stories in here. Really interesting takes on myths and from all over the world, a bunch of different cultures and traditions. I also really liked Stephen Graham Jones's retelling. He talked about like I forget what it's like lycanthrope. It was like a origin of the werewolf story, which was very violent, but also very interesting. So I do want to try his full-length novels at some point, but I am also not a big horror reader, so I feel like this was the perfect amount of story for me. But anyway, this was a really great read. I'm really happy that I picked this up. It's another book off my shelf, and now hopefully I will be getting to Great Big Beautiful Life next for this vlog, and as soon as my library loan comes in. Well, as soon as September starts and my library loan comes in, because I'm trying to clean up a bunch of stuff on my currently reading before the end of August. So that will be a September project, but definitely 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely keeping this one. Really, really enjoyed it and had a great time reading it. Hello, good morning. I come to tell you that I got the Great Big Beautiful Life from Emily Henry on audio from the library, so I'm going to be listening to this week, hopefully. And I come to you with a towel on my head, especially for Rainy, from Rainy Blue Reads, because she films with a towel on her head all the time, and she's right. We just got to sometimes film with a towel on our head. So, fresh out the shower, towel on the head, here in the morning, and also I need more coffee because I can not remember what I was going to tell you about this. I think that I started to listen to this last night, and the narrator is the same as the Taylor Jenkins Reid books as well as the Emily Henry books. Like, awesome narrator. So I want to listen to this, but I immediately listened to this and thought, oh no, now this is Joan's voice. It's no longer January's voice, it's Joan's voice from Atmosphere. So we're going to try to listen to this, give it a good old college try when I'm not tired, because I was very tired last night and I started to nod off while I was listening to it, and I was like, this is Joan is talking to me, but I need to do this when I'm a little more awake and then try to see who's the narrator in here, because I don't know yet. But that's my update for now. This is the next one on the TBR and review, and we're gonna see how it goes. Hello, I am 30% into Great Big Beautiful Life, and I thought I'd give you my first update and say that I am really enjoying this book. I am listening to the audiobook. I have managed to banish Joan as the narrator, but I think because we are switching perspectives quite often, well, not perspectives, but we have a current timeline and a past timeline, and we're kind of switching between them often enough that I have solidified these characters in my brain rather than anyone else that the narrator has narrated before. So I'm having a good time. I really like this. I'm really fascinated by it. We have a grumpy hero and a happy main character. I'm reading 2 romances right now where we have a giddy party, a happy-go-lucky party, and then a grumpy party. So we have a golden retriever and a black cat, and I love that dynamic. As long as I don't like the grumpy main character to necessarily be mean, and Hayden is being a little mean, but I also think it's not, I don't know, I'm not buying all of it is just being mean for mean's sake. So I think he's not very trusting is what I think so far. So we'll see where it goes, but yeah, I'm interested. I love an Emily Henry hero. So I'm having a good time. We'll continue on with this, and I'm switching off between this and Breakout Year right now, which is an arc that I'm reading. So that's not a book I own, so we won't talk about that here. At least I don't own it yet, but I'll finish it. I'll finish the arc before it comes out. So I will have a copy of it, but it won't ever go on the TBR. Hello. So I have finished Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, and I had a great time. I really, really enjoyed this. I don't know that I updated you at the 60% mark. I don't remember, but I thought this was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I liked our two main characters. I liked the story arc and kind of what we explored here. I really liked the setting, and I felt like we were really on the island with Alice and Hayden and Margaret, and I just really enjoyed this. I think I had a good time with this. I think I'm going to give it like a 4.5 stars, because I really had a good time. I was compelled by it. I felt like it had a very independent voice as far as Alice goes. Sometimes it's hard to win me over with a book that doesn't have a dual point of view during a romance, and Emily Henry usually does end up doing it, and I had a great time reading this. I think my expectations were tempered a little bit, because I did hear that this was like kind of Evelyn Hugh-esque, and I think that the sort of just not like enthusiastic reviews that I saw when it came out, like probably like people enjoyed it, but it wasn't unseating like Funny Story or some people's other favorites, sort of tempered my expectations of this book. So I had a really good time. I really enjoyed it, and I don't think I had too high expectations that I was disappointed in any way, because I don't really have any negative thoughts about this. I had a good time. I think that the pacing was pretty good. I think we wrapped, my only critique, I think, would be that it felt like we kind of wrapped things up at the end pretty quickly. I could have just like kind of let things stretch a little bit, or like explored a little bit deeper into a couple of things. But overall, I really liked it, had a good time. Can't wait for the next Emily Henry. But yeah, I love this edition. It's so pretty. It's got so many cool sprayed edges colors, and another book off my physical TBR. So very happy about that. And we will continue on. I will have my next spin. I'll do my third and final spin for you as my next clip.
Hello friends, good morning. So I don't know how I feel about this lighting, but we're gonna go with it because I want to wrap this vlog up. So this is gonna be a pretty quick outro actually, which is gonna surprise you, because I'm gonna have told you in the intro that I wanted to read 3 books for this vlog. Take 3 books off my physical TBR and read them, hopefully mostly from, past years. And my last spin was for 2023, and I chose The Fine Print by Lauren Asher for this pick. So this was one that this actually wasn't my first pick. I started with Siren Queen by Nevo, and I just wasn't able to get into that book. I just was not feeling it. So I was like, I don't think this is a book problem. This feels like a me problem. So I switched to this thinking that this is totally different than the Siren Queen. That is historical fantasy, and this is modern contemporary romance. And so I was giving this a try, and I pretty quickly DNF'd this. In this, we're following 3 brothers who have to complete different tasks for their grandfather who has passed away in order to complete his will, and then basically their inheritance is tied to these tasks. And it seems like the brothers are each going to have a different type of task, and the youngest brother, Rowan, who we're following in this, has to improve the park in a lot of different ways, and he is kind of tasked with this, and he's like very confused. And then we also have Zara, who is supposed to be, a park worker, and they meet and bump and not into each other in not the best circumstances, and then things kind of go from there, and I think they're gonna have to work with each other. And I didn't like Rowan. I didn't like him. I struggle with a male protagonist who is like downright mean and rude, and that's what this man was in the first like 30 or 40 pages, and I couldn't get past it. So this isn't going to be for me. I think what I continue to learn as I read the romances on my backlist is that I need to try romances before I buy them, or just simply borrow them from my library and then see if they are for me and then invest in them, because I get wrapped up in the idea of them or the hype like this one, and then I end up not liking them. And I'm like, I spent money on this and I didn't need to. So anyway, this was a DNF pretty quickly. So I spun again since I had tried 2 books from that year. One was like a soft DNF, the other was a full DNF, and I thought, okay, let's switch it up now since I tried 2. And I got, as you're gonna see here, I got 2025, and I did buy Dinosaur Sanctuary Volume 3, and this is one I've been meaning to get to for like a month or so now. So I decided to read this and count this for my pick. And this was a ball. This is the 3rd volume in Dinosaur Sanctuary, which is basically a manga about a dinosaur zoo in Japan and how they're kind of trying to improve this park because it's kind of older, it just is kind of derelict. There's a lot of like things that they can improve on, and it's just kind of been left to kind of, you know, slowly fall apart over time. So there are things that are happening that they're trying to improve on, and it's just very sweet and lovely and warm. And what I loved about this volume was that there is a map. I'm not going to be able to show you easily, but there's like a park map and guide in the front, like with their hours and like a gift shop information, and it was just really cute and I really liked it. So I might end up picking up the other volumes of this since only 1 and 2 were available from my library, so I'm gonna have to slowly pick these up, but that'll be something I do over time. But I really enjoyed volume 3. I didn't have any like midway updates since I just sat down and read this last night and just kind of enjoyed it the whole time. And yeah, that's my update. This was a really excellent volume. It's really sweet. I just like how we have these little like stories about our keepers as well as what's currently happening at the park, and then also like a little sidelines about visitors. It just feels very, very manga and fun, and I like it a lot. If I sound a little congested, I had a cold this week. I actually stayed home from work one day, so I am recovering, I should say, but I am still a little congested. But that is my update and my finale for this vlog. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about the books that I talked about, please let me know down below. And if you aren't feeling chatty, go ahead and leave me a dinosaur emoji for Dinosaur Sanctuary, since that's what we ended on. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!